Hi, I'm Feroz Khan, and welcome to Drag and Drop Low-Code Unplugged, the podcast where we explore the game-changing impact of low-code in software development. Join me in insightful conversations with IT leaders and passionate low-code enthusiasts who are at the forefront of this digital evolution. Together, we'll explore how early adoption of low-code is giving businesses a competitive edge on a global scale. We'll discuss its impact on software development, dissect its role in transforming businesses, and uncover the ways in which it's reshaping career trajectories. So whether you're a seasoned IT professional or a curious enthusiast, be sure to tune in as we share success stories and unravel the mysteries of low-code. Subscribe now and stay tuned for a front row seat to the revolution that's shaping the future of technology. So let's go. Hi Bruce, how are you?
Hey, Feroz, good to see you again. Doing well. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. It's great to see you, and it's we've been speaking for a while, so it's nice to finally get you on and get your time, and have you on as a guest.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Looking forward to it.
Amazing. Well, it'd be good to start with a bit about yourself for those who may not know who you are and where you're from.
Yeah, so on the personal side, I've married. I got a wife of Christy of 34 years. I live here in Charlotte, North Carolina for, gosh, it seems like 25 years now I've been in the
Wow.
Carolinas. I grew up in upstate New York in the Adirondack. So if there's any other, Adirondack upstate New Yorkers out there, hello and welcome home. Yeah, I have three grown kids. We're empty nesters. I've got Ben, Sarah, Paul. My oldest is actually a web and app designer for Wells Fargo. He's crushing it.
Cool.
He's doing great, kind of following in dad's footsteps. My daughter Sarah loves animals. She is a vet tech,
Ah,
ironically, in
nice.
upstate New York. Who would have
Ah,
guessed?
cool.
No relation to my history in New York. Uh, and then my youngest son Paul is actually finishing his master's in physics and quantum computing, specifically up in University of Wisconsin.
Wow. Wow.
Um,
Very impressive.
so very proud of my kids. Love them to death. I guess a little about me. I love everything outdoors: hiking, camping, national parks, state parks. We have a RV. We do boondocking. So if anybody out there in the middle of
Cool.
nowhere, boondocking. But my all-time favorite, snow skiing. If you want to, get me talking, let's talk about skiing.
Yeah, I've noticed your LinkedIn picture even has the picture of you skiing, isn't it?
Yeah, that was Steamboat, Colorado.
Oh wow, amazing, amazing.
Beautiful.
That's really cool, really cool. And obviously the reason we're here is because of low code and you're involved in low code. But it'd be good to kind of go back to kind of your background, where it all started for you, and kind of how you got into technology.
Yeah, it's funny. So, at the end of the day, I'm really a software engineer at heart. I cut my teeth. I spent 10 years doing flight simulation in the Air Force as well as a civilian. And that's where I learned, hardcore programming, Fortran, and real-time simulation where literally lives are at stake. So that's kind of where I cut my teeth in software engineering, and another 10 years in consulting, doing e-commerce and .com and all sorts of different industries as a consultant. In the last 10 years, they've really been focused on leading everything from small startups as a CTO to directing the channels of Humana, the large Fortune 40 company, that takes care of most of a lot of folks, healthcare. But yeah, really been leading software innovation for about 30 years across many industries. I mentioned the Air Force, Department of
Yeah,
Defense, e-commerce, energy. It feels like I've been through every industry: retail,
yeah,
natural resource management, financial services, healthcare on the payer side, the provider side, life sciences and health tech and more. But it's funny. I kind of like when it comes to software engineering and low code. It's like the Dos Equis man from the commercial,
yeah.
the most interesting man in the world. What does he say? He says, I don't always code, but when I do, I prefer low code. Stay low coding, my friend.
I like that. That's really cool. And you're currently the CEO of Emids, so can you tell us about that move and that decision?
Yeah, it's been a great honor to take on. So a few years back, a couple years back, Emids, premier healthcare IIT consulting firm, acquired a company called Cloud Development Resources, specializing in low code, and specifically in OutSystems. So Cloud Development Resources was acquired by Emids, is still a wholly owned subsidiary. So it's a great honor to take over the helm of the Emids Low-Code business and lead it. So I think that the neat thing about this partnership between Emids, the parent company, and Emids Low-Code, the company that I lead, is when it comes to healthcare, we're bringing the best of both companies. A deep history of healthcare consulting across every venue you can think of. And then our aspect of bringing, half of my business today is healthcare. And we're bringing low code innovation to healthcare, but also the other half of the business is a myriad of industries like, financial services, telecom, HR, manufacturing, energy, and many, many more. But the whole idea is everybody has the same persistent need of reducing cost, improving quality, and time to market. So, one of the things that we're finding in the industry is folks are saying, hey, we need help navigating this world of low code. We need experts that know it well, know it deep, know it broad, and can apply it to my situation and help me navigate all the different options that I have when it comes to low code. So, again, honored to be the new CEO of the Emids Low-Code business, and looking forward to growing it. We've seen some amazing growth in the industry, and we're tracking it. I can share a little more on some of that, but this is where the industry is going as a whole. Software is going.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking about low code, you've obviously worked across various sectors, and you've been in technology for a while. When did you first come across or hear about low code, and what was your kind of initial reaction to it?
Well, it's funny. My first reaction was a total skeptic. Like,
Okay.
remember where I started, if you recall. I mean, I started cutting my teeth on hardcore engineering. I was programming in Ada and Fortran, and it was real time simulation that was running at 10 hertz, 30 hertz, 60 hertz. Where the difference of milliseconds mattered to people in their lives, literally. So I was totally skeptical. I was like, this can't be. So, about 20 years ago, I first started looking at it, and I saw it in the role of things like, rational rows and even Visual Basic and other, where we were starting to innovate software engineering. It's kind of funny. I always say it's like we engineers, we spend our lives automating other people's job, but as soon as you start to automate my job as an engineer, it's like, whoa, hold on, time out. And,
Yeah.
isn't that what low code does? Low code literally automates the process of software engineering. So, Rational Rows 20 years ago, but it was 10 years ago, 10 back, that again, I was highly skeptical. However, I was looking at the opportunity to join a startup as a CTO, and the context was dental healthcare, and we wanted to build a product that kind of competed with Delta Dental, if you're familiar with that. But it was really a network of both the payer side and the provider side, and bringing them together in this new product we call ReadyPay, and ReadyPay is still out there. But the point being is, like, as I looked at the business model, I told the board straight up, I said, this business model does not work if we build software the same way we've always done it in the past. Okay, a bunch of developers overseas, and it's going to be .NET, it's going to be C# or Java and SQL, and we're gonna build this thing. I said the business model just falls apart. Like, we will never be in the black. So I went back to my, I've been watching the low-code industry evolve because it's about 20 years old now.
Yeah.
Most folks don't realize it's been around for a while. Today, by the way, there's about 265 different low-code platforms in the industry. So it's evolved a lot in the last 20 years. It's an incredibly mature marketplace. So, but it was at this startup 10 years ago when I said, all right, let me look at it hard. Let me see, can we use low-code to reduce the time to market, reduce the overall cost, increase the quality, and then therefore fuel this business model, like make it possible. And sure enough, it did. However, it was not without some challenges because, like I said, even 10 years ago, there were a lot of options.
Yeah.
But I was a skeptic. I even we can get into it more, but how I went through picking the right platform. But one of the things to show my skepticism, I said, this can't be. There's no way. So I said, I've done some pretty mean coding in the past. I can sling some .NET, I can sling some SQL, and it's going to perform. It's going to be secure. It's going to be amazing. So I challenged during this evaluation. We can get into a little bit of like I said, I can build code faster. I can build code that runs faster, that's more secure, and it performs better than what's being generated out of these low-code platforms. I'm going to crush those platforms. I got humbled. Let me just put it that way. I was very humbled because I kept going back. I was like, wait a minute, how is this possible that this query is running so much faster, via the code that's generated out of these low-code platforms? How is this possible? And sure enough, hands down, 40% faster, whether it was .NET or SQL, the code was just executing 40% faster on the same infrastructure. By the way, it was all AWS, so it wasn't that. But the point is, like, the code was optimized. And by the way, it was also much more secure than what I thought I was doing. And I thought, wow, okay, that's when I saw it for the first time with my own eyes. Like, this is like having, I kind of say Susie. Everyone has their favorite developer. It's like you got your favorite. Susie is the best. She follows all the best practices. She writes the most performant code. She always has secure code. It's robust. It's extensible. It's like, it's the best code. I wish I could clone Susie. Well, that's what low-code does for me. It's like I can clone Susie over and over and over and over again. So, but yeah, I was a skeptic, but honestly, I'm a believer.
Yeah. And at that time, did you look at multiple platforms, or what platform was the one you was it OutSystems that you looked at?
Yeah, I'd going back to this, startup that I was leading. I started with Forrester and Gartner. I looked at the top of the stack, and I looked at our context. That was the other thing. It's so important to really understand the business context, to understand the business model, because while one low-code might be perfect technologically, economically, it's not a fit at all, and then vice versa. So it's finding that right balance between the right technical fit, the right business fit, and then also the fit for when I say context, it's like, who are the users? Internal users, external users. We talking, a work group of 50, or are we talking 50 million retail customers? And I've literally built solutions that span that. So short story, let's start with Forrester, Gartner, and it was Appian at the time. I think it was Appian, Coney, Mendix. Power Apps was fairly new on the scene with Microsoft, and then OutSystems. And I did this bake-off. And what I found was, on paper, all five were really great. And on paper, they all seemed to be like they checked all the boxes. And I thought, well, now how do we pick? So I did a very unpopular thing for me and my very small team. I had like 2 developers at the time. I said, well, what if we start building these first solutions 5 different ways? And they were like, what do you...
Okay.
Yeah, that was the reaction I got. They're like, you're kidding me, right? I'm like, I don't know how else to do this, but because on paper, they all check all the boxes. So what if we actually experience all 5 of them? And I know this is going to be painful. Let's take the first app. We'll build it 5 different ways and see what it feels like, and see what the end product is like. So we did. Fortunately, after about a week, we were down to 3. So that was good. First 2 just kind of fell away. And we're like, well, they didn't work as well as these 3. But for about 2 months, we built things 3 different ways. And the funny thing is, like, my criteria was super simple. It was like, my number one goal was, I want to be able to build as much as possible inside the low-code platform, and only build outside the platform on a very rare exception basis, if at all. I said Nirvana would be, I never have to build outside the platform, but I didn't think that was possible. I thought that's not going to happen. But the point is, let's see if we can break the platform, and let's see, which one forces us to go outside the platform and start doing traditional development, and that would be like a demerit. So fast forward, the only platform that I couldn't break and that I actually was able to stay inside of was OutSystems. So we selected OutSystems. We built our company on it. We were live with the company in 3 months.
Wow. And did you move to Humana after that?
Yeah, so I ran that business. We built it up, got it out to the market, got our first set of customers. We were in the black, we're cranking. And then one of my old colleagues calls me from Humana. And he'd heard what I was doing. He said, man, we could really use your help at Humana. Will you come and run Humana.com and all the digital channels? And I was like, I'm really good. No, I'm really good. I wasn't really interested. And he was like, well, why don't you come on out? And, I said, okay, we'll go to Louisville. And Louisville is a terrific town. And, fell in love with the company, fell in love with the people and the mission that Humana had. And I said, gosh, if I can help this big Fortune 40 payer, become a mix of payer and provider, by the way, and really help them go through this digital transformation, it would be incredibly rewarding for me as an innovator. So I took them up. But yeah, that's how I was introduced to Humana, and I spent 5.5 years at Humana. I introduced them to LowCode, and obviously OutSystems was a big piece. So was Salesforce, Salesforce and Salesforce Lightning, Salesforce Commerce Cloud, as well as Microsoft's Power Platform as a whole.
Yeah.
So we used really a mix of various low-code platforms. But I feel like I really had a great privilege and opportunity to kind of change people's mind. Not everybody, but a lot of people's minds on considering how we could use low-code to deliver more value.
Yeah, so that's going to be my question, because obviously you are now convinced from your previous role that, low-code's amazing and you'd worked with OutSystems. When you joined Humana, what was that? Obviously, when you're pitching low-code, what was their kind of reaction? Had, the people you're pitching OutSystems to, for example, had they heard of it? Were they skeptical to start with? Did you have to do some convincing?
Oh, yeah, I had to do a lot of selling. It actually started during the interview. At the time, I was interviewing with the CMO at the time, and I said to her, I said, "Hey, are you familiar with this idea, this concept of low code?" She's like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." So I just shared with her a little bit, and I said, I've discovered this, and it's changed my life as an innovator. And I said, I'll be really blunt with you. I don't want to go back. Like I can't go back. I mean, you're always going to need high code. I'm not disparaging high code at all. I'm a high coder. Like I do it. I write high code still, but like I say, I prefer low code. But so I shared that with her, and a little bit. She goes, "Gosh, I don't quite understand what it means, but I like the idea of being able to deliver more value with less cost and more more efficiently, less time." She loves that idea. I said, well, I kind of went out on a limb in the interview. I said, well, I tell you what, if you honestly think that the company is open to this type of idea, then let's keep having a conversation. If not, please don't call me for another interview, because I'm not going to be happy. Like I won't be satisfied being forced into a world where we can't use this power tool called low code. I lived it. So it started there. And the interesting thing I found, this is like almost unanimously, as I was talking to my colleagues, I was on the business side, but I was a big customer of IT. I had tens of millions of dollars in budget, and I'm relying on them to deliver the innovation that I need because I own, the business of the digital channels. So therefore, I was really pushing the envelope with them and in encouraging them to innovate and have an open mind. Business side folks loved it. They were like, "I'm on board. Let's go, Bruce." IT folks, it was a mix. Some were highly skeptical, like I was. I appreciate that. Others were in IT were absolutely digging in their heels, saying, "There's no way we're ever going to do this." So, I had to kind of pick my battles and partner with folks that were open, and then sometimes I had to partner with folks like Cloud Development Resources, now
Yeah.
Emids Low-Code, to demonstrate this is the art of the possible. Like we have this unique problem. One of the first projects I did, famously, using low-code, in this case it was OutSystems, was the business said, hey, this is what we need. My IT team said it's going to take about a year and about $1 million. The business said this is just, and it was a smaller division within our business. It was actually our nonprofit division, and they were like, we're the nonprofit arm of Humana. We can't afford this, so maybe we could afford $300,000. Maybe we could do it in 3 months, but $1 million in a year is just too long, too expensive. So I said, well, what if we do it this way? And I partnered with this company called Cloud Development Resources, now Emids Low-Code, and we built this thing in 3 months, and it's $300,000. They're like, sign me up. So we did, and it was a huge success, and it's continued to be a huge success. We did the same thing for the sales area of within Humana that works with independent agents. So the short story is, I had a lot of skeptics, and frankly, the skeptics got fewer as time went on, but they weren't gone completely. There's still a lot of skeptics out there, generally speaking, and that's where I say, I get it. I've been a skeptic, but let's just look at the facts. Unless you think that Forrester and Gartner are just plain wrong, they've been tracking low-code for better than a decade, and they're saying 2025, 70% of all software is going to be created through some type of low-code. I can't imagine ignoring that fact anymore. So it's more of a question of, okay, so now how so? How are we going to exploit low-code? Where do we exploit low-code? And what's that right low-code solution for us? So does that make sense?
Yeah. And till today, I see Humana is a kind of a big customer story for OutSystems that they share. I still see it on LinkedIn. The details of the project. It'd be good to if you could share a bit of kind of you shared a little about what you built in the start, but other things details of the implementation that you built with OutSystems and even other low-code platforms.
So I guess we'll start with Humana just a little bit. And one of the things that I was most impressed with OutSystems specifically is it's true full stack, like from database modeling to the user experience and everything in between. And the ease of creating REST APIs, consuming REST APIs, SOAP APIs, business process flow. All of it combined into one platform, and even on the UX side, the UI kind of side is having that ability to create an experience and having it deployed as web, iOS, and Android together. Typically I was used to having 3 teams on the front end. You got a web team, an iOS team, an Android team. You always have 3. With OutSystems, and some other low-code platforms do it well. Not all of them, but some do it real well. Is having those 3 together and literally creating one team, one experience that takes on the identity of an iOS native, takes on the identity of an Android or a web interface. Has unique experiences, but yet a lot of commonality. But the key is you have one team, you have one effort. It reduces just the experience side complexity, by a third. Logic modules is building in the kind of enterprise grade logic at that layer, in the infrastructure, and having that shared business logic is just amazing. Some of the things that we found was the other thing is like integrations is the ability to just integrate with literally anything. So I didn't care if it was is it a spreadsheet sitting on SharePoint, or is it some Oracle database that's powering tens of millions of transactions a second? It really didn't matter because we could integrate with all of it. So sorry, let me turn off my phone keeps ringing. It's just a couple of things. Since then, more recently, I kind of fast forward. What we're finding is this mix in the need for companies' help for this mix of like, well, okay, there's 265 different platforms. I think 40 or so are actually platform as a service, PaaS. And then there's other, low-code. How do I navigate all this stuff? So I give you a great. This is happening right now. I can't tell you the company, but it's a large, healthcare provider and payer provider. You would know the name. And we're doing a proof of concept for them where it's a mix, where it ends up being OutSystems plus Power Platform and specifically Dataverse. So they've got a big infrastructure of Microsoft, and they have a unique set of data integration needs where we've really felt like using the Microsoft Dataverse, again, part of the Power Platform low-code environment, acted as that mesh for aggregating all the data, whether it be files or databases or FTP sources, or it's real-time messaging. So basically using it and then having OutSystems power the customer experience, both internal and external, and then integrating with Dataverse. So that's another really, really interesting, and we're creating that right now. It's a lot of success. We're even seeing that with ServiceNow, same type of thing where it's, hey, I've got this ServiceNow, I want to do some workflows, but I'm trying to create this experience that meshes up these different audiences. Some are B2B, some are B2C, some are internal, and I'm struggling to do it just within the ServiceNow environment, natively. So we're marrying OutSystems. So we're saying, okay, OutSystems plus ServiceNow meets, and we're using the low-code, the app factory within ServiceNow as well. But kind of combining the strengths of each to bring the greatest value to the customer. So those are just a few kind of stories, if you will.
Yeah, amazing. And in your time that you focus on OutSystems here, when you were using OutSystems, obviously there's a lot of great features, but were there kind of any frustrations with the platform at the time that you had or that you have now that still kind of is a thing that's not sorted for you?
That's a great question. I would have to say, well, I'll go back to the skepticism. My number one frustration with all low-code platforms, doesn't matter which one, pick a brand, doesn't matter, is the skeptics. Is those it's not even the platforms. First and foremost, it's the people that just simply won't open up their minds to letting us share. Like, hey, it's fine to be a skeptic. I don't mind that. I've been one. But it's those people that just dig on their heels and just won't hear it. That's the most frustrating thing. But again, it's not really platform. I think the other thing is, but getting back to your root of your real question is, the landscape. Not all low code is created equal. And that's not a ding on one platform versus the other. Yeah. It's kind of like saying, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream? Some of it's personal preference. Rocky Road isn't better than, say, cookies and cream, although I think it is. Yeah. It's personal preference, right? It depends on the context. What am I feeling today? Sometimes I really like mint chocolate chip. That's just my. So, but let's face it, they're not all created equal. Some people think like because they had one experience with low code of this product in this context, and it didn't go well, that then there's an echo over it. Shadow, there's a shadow effect on all low code. Then all low code is bad. And then the fact of the matter is, the irony is this is no different than going back to the evolution of software. I started out doing machine coding, and then assembler, then third generation languages like Fortran, then fourth generation like C++, and now it's just a plethora. So the point being is like this is no different. It's like you wouldn't apply any technology to every situation. Everything is context dependent. So it's more about saying, the frustration is, helping people understand, this platform is really good at work group solutions that are internal, for example. That's its strength. This platform over here, its greatest strength is large enterprise grade, like systems of record that serve tens of millions of customers. Like that's its strength. Now, you wouldn't necessarily want to use that for a work group that's 30 users or 50 users, right? It's overkill. So, and I guess the last thing that's in the shift from this ongoing shift to low code as a macro. I think the other frustration that's happening like literally right now is AI. I mean, I love AI, don't get me wrong, but Gen AI and machine learning and AI, it is sucking all the oxygen out of the room. And again, I'm a fan. I'm a huge fan, and we're doing tons of AI work.
Yeah.
We're integrating with Gen AI like every day. We've been creating machine learning models. I know I have for 5-6 years. So this is not new. It's not a knock, but it's just right now there's just so much oxygen and funding being pulled out of the ecosystem that we're over-indexing on AI. Meanwhile, some platforms I think are strategically and very smartly building AI into their platforms. Others, it's kind of window dressing. And that's this art and science of low code is understanding, well, when is it really the innovation of say AI or machine learning or other things, and just generating quality code. When is it more window dressing? When is it actually prime time? So there's that constant art and science.
Yeah. And there's this discussion you see kind of online about you're talking about AI. AI will there'll be no need for low code with AI. I'm keen to know kind of what's your views on that.
I don't disagree with that, but generally I disagree with the timeline. Like, so I look at the way you can go to Gen AI today and pick your platform for Gen AI and ask it to generate some code. It does an okay job. Copy paste, you can run that code. Okay, now where I think it's going to take another maybe 5 years to get to the point, and it's not just about code. Code is one context. But you could say, oh, my context is I need an architectural drawing for a skyscraper. Okay, so let's remember the risk reward. So today you could ask Gen AI, hey, build me a schematic for a skyscraper that's going to house 10,000 people or what have you. I want it to have this many floors, and it'll build you a schematic. Now, would I give that to somebody to actually go build? Heck no.
Yeah.
So the same question applies for I'm going to build a digital product or service that's going to service tens of millions of customers a year. Would I allow Gen AI to just generate the code and you go off and there's a lot to be done over I think the next 5 years for Gen AI to get to the point where it's as reliable or hopefully more reliable than humans. So I think the promise is there. I in my lifetime, I don't see humans being out of the loop. I think humans in the loop with AI is an absolute imperative. Absolute imperative. It doesn't matter what the context is. Self-driving cars or building buildings or generating software. Humans have to be in the loop to make sure that they're meeting the requirements we need, that we're testing it like a black box to the point where we're confident that solution, that Gen AI, or frankly, the irony is we do this today. So if I partner with a vendor and I say, here's the specifications, they build me some capabilities, and I treat it like a black box and I test it. Like this is not new. Even going back to my DoD days in the Air Force, we did the same thing. It's a black box. You tease it. So we know how to do this. Now, will it replace low-code? To your question, I think the more likely scenario is low-code has Gen AI built into it, and it's the Gen AI generating code is just the next evolution of low-code. That's what I see. I don't see low-code going quote away. No different than I see, is Java going to go away? C++ going to go away? Is C# going to go away? I mean, maybe. I think it's going to become less visible over time to us humans. Just like, has machine code gone away? Has assembler gone away that operates down inside No, it's still in the processor. It's just at a much lower. So again, this is just, to me, it's the next evolution. Low code, then Gen AI is the next evolution. It's very natural, but it won't disappear forever. Just like machine code, binary, hexadecimal is not gone. Fortran and Java and C++ and C#, it's not gone. SQL's not gone. It's been around for decades, and it probably still will for the rest of our lives. But will it become less visible? Absolutely, over time.
Yeah. Amazing. And we touched on you're at Emids now, the CEO. Can you kind of tell us a bit more about your role within the business?
Yeah, at the end of the day, my role is to grow the business. As the CEO,
Yeah,
I've got a great team. We've got low code experts in OutSystems and Power Platform and ServiceNow, and we've got a mix of folks in the Philippines and in India and a team here in the U.S. The idea is to, at the end of the day, we've done some amazing work. We've innovated across many industries for many customers. And my goal is to bring that same innovation and that delight to even more customers. So how do we do that? A couple, not only, first thing we did is we kind of started diversifying. OutSystems is obviously core to our offer, will always be. As I mentioned, we're diversifying into other platforms, pretty much covering the myriad of the top notch, top 10, I would say, low
yeah,
code platforms. But I mentioned being this kind of low code Sherpa. We hear this over and over. Is this idea of navigating this low code landscape is hard, but we make it easy because we're your low code Sherpa. That's my goal. My goal is to help customers determine like what's the right mix. For some customers, it might be their first venture down the landscape of low code, and they've not considered this before. And others, especially with larger companies, like Forrester Gartner will tell you that most companies today
yeah,
have at least 4 different low code platforms. But universally, I've not seen a customer yet or a prospect yet that has a really good handle on how do I use them all. Like I've got 4 or 5. How do I use them all together? When should I use them? And typically it ends up being almost like a political debate internally. So they bring us in to say, hey, give us a non-political answer. Like you got no dog in the fight. I don't. I'm coming to give the customer value, help them make a decision, and bring in the experts to help them evolve. And whether that's finding the right mix or it's saying, hey, I think we're end of life in this particular low code platform. This is how mature the industry is. Some folks are just
mm,
getting into low code. Irony. Others
yeah,
are
yeah,
like
yeah,
they've been in it for 2 decades, and they're saying, oh, we're going to shift from this low code to this low code. We need help migrating. How can we fast path? What components do we keep? In the legacy, if you will, low code. It sounds too funny to say that legacy low code. Move it into
yeah,
the more modern, cloud-based, containerized, multi-cloud type, low code that we're all looking at today. But the point being is like that's my goal. Is the company is help my sales
yeah,
team to think creatively and how do we bring solutions. I'll end on this. One of the things we just started offering this month, actually in July, is this idea of a custom-built SaaS. What we found is there's a gap in the market between, hey, I need a SaaS solution. Maybe it's a CRM, maybe it's an ERP, maybe it's in healthcare, it's an EHR, EMR, and they're leaning towards those kind of core SaaS solutions. And then
yeah,
there's this, hey, we need to build it by hand, or maybe we use low code, but either way, we got to build a product
yeah,
or we kind of rent the product, we lease it. So I thought, well, what if we found a way to build a custom SaaS, and rather than the customer have to buy it, they can lease it as a subscription.
yeah,
So, because we do that a lot, where we say, hey, it's time and materials,
yeah,
or it's a fixed cost, and we create a digital product. We use low code to bring the greatest value, but at the end of the day, they're buying this solution that we then create for them. But that's not always the right business model. Sometimes people say, hey, I don't want to lay out the capital, but what I'd rather do is subscribe to the custom solution that normally I would have to
yeah,
build. But wouldn't it be interesting if instead of building, I had an option to subscribe? I still get the value, but I can subscribe on a monthly basis and pay by utilization. And we're seeing a lot of interest in that right now. It's this custom built subscription.
yeah, yeah. That's great. And are you still, you've spoke about a lot about skepticism and people who are skeptical about low code. When you're speaking to customers, are you still coming across skeptics?
Fewer and fewer every day. It's funny.
Okay.
I guess one of the pluses of Gen AI and it kind of taking the oxygen out of the room and a lot of the funding out of the room is that I think people are seeing like, well, hold on a minute. If Gen AI can generate Perl scripts or R or Java or what have you,
Yeah.
if Gen AI can generate code that's a starting point, what about this low code thing that's been basically being perfected for 20 years? And
Yeah.
it's generating not only is it generating the code, but the code is optimized for security. And the latest threats to intrusion and SQL injection or what have you is already built into that code that's generated. It's that's so people are starting to have that. Oh, wait a minute! If Gen AI can do this, maybe I should take another look at low code because it's been tweaked for quite a while. It's kind of funny, like Tesla self-driving car, full self-driving, the FSD. You know, Elon Musk and company, they've been perfecting this for quite a little while, long before
Yeah.
Gen AI. The same principle. So I'm seeing fewer. So I see some still, but fewer and fewer and fewer. And I think Gen AI is credited with some of that. I think people's minds are starting to open up to, oh, hold on a minute. Computers can actually generate code that's
Yeah.
usable. I said, yeah, well, let me tell you about low code because it's it's being highly, highly optimized. And now we're actually injecting AI to take it to that next level.
Amazing. And you're now kind of working, even though it hasn't been that long, you're now kind of in the consulting side. So it'd be good to kind of get your view on, the differences you found kind of working for an end customer versus, working in the consultancy.
Yeah. Well, so why do you say that? Okay, maybe this is confession time. Selfishly, I have to say, selfishly, working in the consulting side is way more fun. Well, it just is. So
Yeah.
why? For me, maybe it's my my wife would probably say that's your ADD coming out, Bruce. Your attention. Maybe so. I love the variety. I every day I wake up, I get the opportunity to traverse many, many contexts, many, many different businesses, many, many different industries, many different problem sets, and I get to partner alongside of them to innovate. So I love that. Humana I loved as well. It was so focused, and even there, I traversed everything from driving the e-commerce innovation and transformation for what's now their pharmacy business that's 100% e-commerce based, but through to the .com, or how do we sell better to Medicare customers and stuff. So everything in between, but it was all healthcare. Here, I get one day I wake up and I'm talking about healthcare, and then I'm later in the day I'm talking to an energy company and a financial services company and a natural resource management and retail, and and it's this beautiful thread that I had the great honor to be able to look across all of them and help them find that thread of innovation. Like how do we crack the most difficult problems they have? And I see this constantly. Is especially for prospects, I say to them, my sales team says, what's your most gnarly problem you have that you don't think you could solve right now? Either it's too expensive, it's too complex, it's cost prohibitive. I said, let us take a look at that again and see if we can bring you a solution. I absolutely love it.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And is there, kind of, anything, I know you spoke about the new solution that you're kind of discussing with people, but is there anything else you can kind of, tell us that, we can look forward to kind of hear about, or what you're working on in the future?
Yeah, a great question. Yeah, there's a lot coming. One of the things, kind of building off some of what we said. So obviously, Emids Low-Code. Low-Code is core to everything we do, everything that I do. Continuing to grow in the kind of multi-platform, because what we've realized is that the practice that kind of was the genesis of creating this optimized low-code practice as with OutSystems as the foundation. Much of that principle directly translates across every low-code platform because it's a different mind shift. It's a different way of staffing. It's a different way of working. I call it hyper agile. So, applying it to Microsoft, applying it to ServiceNow, Pega is real popular low code in the healthcare world. Is
Yeah.
applying this optimized way of delivering value through Pega, Salesforce Lightning, Workday. Even where the most recent one we started looking at is the Oracle Apex, which takes me way back. 'Cause it's I think about 20 years old itself, but it's been constantly evolving with different names. WebDB I think was one of the early names, and it's another, like, the whole Oracle ecosystem is something that I think people kind of look at maybe secondary or tertiary, but
Yeah.
so in there may be others, but basically looking at that kind of top of the stack, or the cream of the crop in low code, and applying our best practices across all of them, and taking that agnostic kind of Sherpa perspective, and
Yeah.
really, so we've got a model that we're helping folks determine, what I've got, these low code platforms, how do I use the right mix for this context, as well as predict the economic model. What are my cost models? Not just from a platform cost, but from a development cost of build, run, maintain. So a multi-platform, multi-industry, continuing to, diversify into many, many different industries. But I guess one of the fundamental things that we see is this simplification of the complexity. Is we've got a whole suite of techniques and in technologies. We have this thing called an accelerator chassis that we've created. It's the most commonly found sets of foundational capabilities that everybody needs across every industry, to say, hey, you know what, we've created these things, and they're available to you as our customer, like at no cost, because it's IP that we own, and it's simply like, hey, if you pick us, this comes along with it. And really simplifying this complexity across the architectures, the different platforms, the data model, the flow of data, integrations, and then, like I said, cost model, and then even helping folks migrate. So and then coming up with creative. It's funny. I almost look at it sometimes and I go, I feel like we're a software company, but we're also becoming almost like an alternative finance vehicle. Is this buy
Yeah.
versus subscription, or buy versus lease type opportunity? It's how can we get creative in helping customers, solve their needs, whether they're big or even small. But yeah, this we keep saying, navigating low code, it's hard, but we're your Sherpa.
Amazing. And I think the final question for me would be, as someone who was a really big skeptic himself, what would be your message to the skeptics of today?
Honestly, I would say stay skeptical. Stay skeptical, but at the same time, be open-minded. So try it. Like, healthy dose of skepticism always goes. Like I said, 265 different options out there. There's a lot of junk. In my prediction, in the next 5 years, I think the market's going to consolidate considerably. There's going to probably be 20 at most, key players in 5 years. So,
Yeah.
10% of the market, I think, is going to exist in 5 years. So be highly skeptical, but be very, very open-minded, and try it. Because I think a healthy dose of skepticism is like, as they say, iron sharpens iron. Put our minds together. Let's pressure test it and find the right solution. But stay skeptical, but stay open-minded.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, Bruce. It was really great to speak to you. It was worth the wait, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, likewise. Well, let's definitely let's not make this so long until our next one. How about that? We should definitely catch up
Yeah, I
again.
think, I was going to say we should definitely, especially with all the things you're working on, I think it'd be great to, when they're kind of in motion and you've got more kind of success stories you can talk about in more detail. I think it'd be great to speak again in the future.
Yeah, would love that. Absolutely. Yeah, let's do it. So, well, thanks again, Feroz.
Amazing.
Been a privilege and an honor. Thanks for having me.
Likewise. Thanks, Bruce.
Yeah, take care.
Thank you for listening to today's episode, which is brought to you by iTrack. We are a leading staffing firm that solely specializes in supplying both contract and permanent low-code professionals to organizations globally. Navigating the niche landscape of the low-code market requires the best talent, and we recognize its critical importance for our clients. Whether you're a company looking to strengthen your team, an individual seeking the next career move, or someone entirely new to the world of low-code, we're here for you. Our extensive experience and in-depth market knowledge enables us to quickly pinpoint the ideal candidates while offering expert advice and support at every stage of your low-code journey. Reach out to us through our website or connect with me directly on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to assist you. Thank you once again for joining us today. We'll be back next week with another insightful episode. Until then, take care.